1942. It'll be the 75th year anniversary, actually later this year in November.
Really? Jesus.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Topical.
The day was November 26th, Thanksgiving Day, the year 1942. Just before noon, an American MP, and that's military police, for anyone who doesn't know. Parliament. Oh, yeah. An American Minister of Parliament. So an American MP tries to stop a fight in Albert Street. During this brief incident, an Australian soldier was thumped on the head with an MP's baton, and more Aussie soldiers saw this and came in to get involved.
Nice.
This was a short but violent brawl, so as you can tell, tensions are already high and small fights are breaking out. Also, from what I read, there were accounts of brawls like this in other cities in Australia that the US were stationed, like Sydney and Adelaide.
Mullumbimby.
Yeah, exactly. And even over in New Zealand.
Okay.
So there are many supposed reasons as to why things were so tense between the Australians and the Americans. The most common one that people think was that the Americans were kind of stealing all the Australian girls.
Well, they're not property, Mitch. If the Australian girls want to sleep with the Americans, that's up to them.
But the Aussies were kind of pissed and jealous because
they weren't getting any.
Yeah, they were just like seducing all the Australian girls and not leaving any for them. But I know what you're thinking. American boys successfully picking up Aussie girls in this country.
Yeah, exactly. The tables do
bloody
turn.
Not likely.
Well, I mean, you go over to America now and they love Australian accents. So, we had our comeuppance. No, they had they had their comeuppance.
They've had our comeuppance.
I'll come up and get you, boy.
Well, funny you should mention the accents because, like, this is obviously in the 40s, so, like, there's not much of a stigma attached to being American at this time.
Hey there, see?
In the eyes of the Australians, at least. So, obviously, these days, there's the whole sort of Americans are stupid, Americans are arrogant, the bloody Yanks sort of thing, but that didn't really exist back then.
Oh, it's the Americans.
One of the things that was actually said was like the Americans were coming in and sort of being all smooth with their movie star accents.
Oh,
because
God.
Well, because that's people would like just their only real exposure to Americans was in movies and stuff. So they came over. They're like, oh, there's like movie stars.
Movie stars.
God damn it, girls! Come on.
There were some other potential contributors as well, though. One example was, while Australians don't exactly have the best track record for our relations with First Nations people, and that is to say the absolute worst track record, the Australians took exception to the segregation of the American Army and the way that the black servicemen were being treated by their white counterparts. Also, there was a lot of general resentment towards the Americans due to their government affording them better rations and nicer uniforms and more luxuries than the Australians, which they, of course, in turn used to pick up women. And so, yeah, it was basically just that.
Bloody Yankerman.
Well, like, weren't shops and hotels giving them, like, better treatment too?
Of course they were.
Are you reading that from your laptop?
No, I was just asking a question. Don't look at my laptop.
Someone's doing a bit of on-the-fly research over here.
On the fly.
That was another factor as well. They were being preferential to the Americans because they had more money and stuff like that, because their government was giving them better pay and stuff like that.
Not anymore.
But now let's move ahead.
If you're low class, that is.
Let's move ahead to later that day. It's around 7 p.m. and the pubs have just closed.
What?
Ugh.
Well, it was like...
What a load of bullshit.
Dark times, Harry. These were dark times.
That would cause me to riot.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, but it was wartime, though, and it was like in the city, so I guess...
turn off the lights and have a drink in the dark.
Well, they had shit to do in the morning. They had to get up. They were like not just randos. They were army men and stuff like that. They wanted everyone to be up ready and fit for service.
Yeah.
So anyways, the pubs closed. The pub's closing early, so the streets are just full of people walking around. One man in particular, Private James R. Stein of the 404th Signal Company of the U.S. Army, has been drinking in the Australian Army canteen.
Can't handle his bloody liquor.
Yeah.
So he's left there. He's walking down the street towards the American PX, which is Postal Exchange Canteen, which is on the corner of Creek and Adelaide Street. Now, I don't know whether this next part is true or even why it's relevant, but
He went to Stockies.
I came across this fun little fact, and I absolutely had to keep it in. Legend has it that Private Stein had been enjoying the sweet, sweet Queensland nectar that is Forex beer.
Oh, mate.
So he's in a fighting mood already.
When was Forex established?
Previous to 1942, I
Yeah,
suppose.
obviously.
I'll
but
look that up right
just
now.
give us a quick shout out to
You look
Forex.
that up. But anyways, Stein's walking down the street and he meets up with 3 Aussie soldiers who have also been drinking. They start having a bit of a chat. And as they're talking, along comes Private Anthony O'Sullivan of the 814th MP Company, who asks to see Private Stein's leave pass.
Oh, here we go.
So while old Steiny's fidgeting around trying to find his leave pass, the MP gets a little impatient and tells Stein to hurry up as he did not have all night. But at this point, Steiny's newfound Aussie mates have a bit of a go at the MP and tell him to bloody ease up, rein it in, and just leave Stein alone. And then after a bit of swearing and what have you, a baton gets pulled out and it is time to punch on. So
what do you think's going to happen? This one MP versus 3 Aussies and an American friend.
Well, I guess so.
I've got a stick. Yeah, righto, mate.
But so arms and legs flying everywhere. The fight continues. So reinforcements coming in from each side. So more Americans joining in, more Aussies seeing this, and they're joining in. The MPs actually were eventually outnumbered, and they retreated towards the PX.
Wait, so were the American soldiers fighting the MPs? Or were they fighting the Aussies?
Well, I think there's MPs from both sides.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
So everyone's just
members
fighting.
of
So
Parliament.
this is the
Ministers were
Speaker,
getting in there.
Mr. Speaker.
The judge came in. Oh.
So the MPs get outnumbered, and so I guess the American MPs get outnumbered, and they start to grab their side, and they retreat towards the PX. Private Stein also goes back towards the PX. He says he ran and stumbled back in. However, Private O'Sullivan had to be carried back.
What's the matter with you, boy?
So at this stage,
Handle your liquor?
this has caused quite an alarm. So there are alarm bells ringing, and a large crowd is starting to form around the PX, and they are not happy. They're throwing bottles and rocks and sticks at the PX building. Supposedly a parking sign was thrown through a window.
Nice.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Bring back the Biff.
First Lieutenant Lester Duffin of the 814th MP Company arrived on the scene around 7:15. So this is all happening like within
Fucking
half an hour.
15 minutes period.
So he sees
they're on
about
it.
he sees about
Bloody on it.
100 Australian soldiers trying to break through a makeshift cordon around the PX door. Police Inspector Charles Price arrives on the scene as the crowd continues to grow.
Charlie.
Apparently, also, the American Red Cross Club is under siege at this point as well.
Fuck.
Jesus.
So this is it's getting shitty. War correspondent John Hind was on a balcony overlooking the Battle of Brisbane, and he was probably staying at the Gresham Hotel. He stated,
Oh, good place. Good place.
Good bar.
Yeah.
what he said was, the most furious battle I ever saw during the war was that night in Brisbane. It was like a civil war, he says.
I mean, I doubt it definitely was nowhere near the most furious
That's
battle
what
of
he
the war,
said.
but
Were there
how
any-
many bloody battles did he go to?
I don't know,
I have
at least
seen
this
one
one.
battle and one battle only, and that was the most vicious battle I've ever seen.
I don't doubt its ferocity, but I am 100% certain there were many more ferocious battles fought in the war
Well,
between actual combatants.
Yeah.
By-
Did they even use guns, Minnie?
we'll get to that. By 8 p.m., between 2,000 to 5,000 people were involved in this disturbance, which continues to rage.
Fucking yeah.
Like it was absolute fucking bedlam. An Australian officer and 3 soldiers were detained because they were driving a small truck holding ammunition, several submachine guns, and hand grenades. The local Brisbane Fire Brigade arrived on the scene, but the Americans later criticized them for not using their hoses to quell the disturbance. Supposedly, some American MPs even took off their armbands and joined in.
Yeah.
What about the boys' brigade?
The Brisbane Boys Brigade.
BBC.
Did they get in there?
No, well, that didn't come up, but potentially. So things are looking pretty fucking dire for the Americans. Things are looking so dire that the 738th MP Battalion starts to arm their MPs with 12-gauge shotguns.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
One of these men was Private Norbert Grant of C Company.
What a bloody Norbert.
You can only guess what the C stands for.
Charlie.
He was one of... him and one of his mates make their way to the front of the PX. Someone in the crowd sees that Grant has a gun, and suddenly he's accosted by several people trying to grab the gun off of him.
Oh, shit.
So he whacks one Aussie soldier with a shotgun. Another guy grabs the gun while someone else has him around the neck, and then the shotgun goes off. All 3 shots are fired and hit 8 different people.
Fuck, mate.
One man, gunner Edward Sidney Webster, is hit in the chest and is killed instantly.
Oh, shit.
Private Kenneth Henkel was hit in the cheek and forearm. Private Ian Tyman fell to the ground with a chest wound. Private Frank Corrie was hit in the thigh. 18-year-old Walter Maidment was wounded. Private Richard Ledson got a compound fracture in his ankle and was wounded in the left thigh and left hand. Sapper Di Vosso was wounded in the thigh. And civilian Joseph Hanlon was wounded in the leg. After a momentary silence, Private Grant scrambles towards the PX canteen. On his way, he breaks the butt of his shotgun over an Australian's head. Another casualty was American soldier Private Joseph Hoffman, who was one of the guards out the front of the PX who received a fractured skull.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, so it's
pretty morbid, yeah.
So at this point, there are other battles are raging around various canteens in Brisbane. This became known as the Battle of the Canteens.
We had one of those in high school.
Yeah.
But by 10
Not a battle, just a canteen.
But by 10 p.m., the city had quieted down, and the ground floor of the American PX was completely demolished.
Nice.
The final toll of this night was 1 Australian killed, 8 minor gunshot wounds, 6 baton injuries, and hundreds with black eyes, split lips, swollen cheeks, broken noses, and various other abrasions.
God fucking damn it.
The chief census office in Brisbane orders no cabling or broadcasting of details of tonight's Brisbane serviceman riot. Background censors only. So this is what they were allowed to say. 1 Australian killed, 6 wounded. The Brisbane Courier Mail had a heavily censored article the next day about a disturbance in which one person was killed and several were wounded, but it did not give any idea.
There's been an awakening.
It did not give any idea of the nationalities involved or any specific details of the disturbance. This was supposedly because the higher-ups thought that if this story got out, the Japanese might turn it into a propaganda piece, like Americans and Australians are fighting against each other. They can't even, bloody keep it together, stuff like that.
That's fair. Yeah.
Private Norbert Grant, the guy with the shotgun, was court-martialed for manslaughter on
you bastard.
On the 27th of February 1943, but not found guilty on the grounds of self-defense.
Motherfucker.
5 Australians were convicted for assault as the result of the Battle of Brisbane. One person was jailed for 6 months. There was a second night of the Battle of Brisbane, but it was less centralized. It was kind of a bit more spread out, and it wasn't as interesting, but it was a little bit weirder. Like they had someone...
Tell me more.
Someone had to leave a tram, get off a tram because the tram got raided or something like that.
By who?
I think it was an American man was on the tram, and some Aussies came on and saw him. I saw this thing about a line of Americans lining up along a tram line and pulling out their 45s.
Oh, Jesus.
Apparently this one American officer or something went to the movies with his wife and got seen by some Australians, and they bloody yank, fucking kill him, and they go
wow.
They run up to him and they're kicking him and stuff, and
boys,
there was
come on.
I can't remember who it was, but someone said they saw what was basically kind of like a big bully circle where they were passing around an American, kicking and punching him.
Holy shit.
In the city,
Guys, yeah. Jesus Christ.
So this is it's not a fun story, but it's definitely interesting. And yeah, but you didn't know that happened in Brisbane.
To lighten the mood,
Go Australia!
Castlemaine 4X